So I sent the link to some other few young people. I think they will also join as time goes on.
Oh, okay. That works.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks. 1 minute.
it's okay.
Yes, you can. Okay, so welcome and thank you for accepting to do this within a short notice. Welcome, everyone. My name is Excellence, and I'm just a regular girl, founder of Animations with Excellence. And it's a privilege to have Mr. Gabriel with us this afternoon. I'm not going to take so much of your time, so we'll just go straight right into it. So, Mr. Gabriel, can you just tell us a bit about yourself? Want to know you a bit about yourself and your journey so far in the development space.
All right. Good good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this. Let me say a virtual panel to talk about a little bit of my experience in the development space. My name is Gabriel Adeyemo. I'm the last of 6 children. I'm a graduate from Ladoke Akitola University of Technology in Ogbomosho, where I studied clinical physiology. What else? At the moment, I work with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee, which is also called the UN Refugee Agency, in my capacity as Communications and Public Information Officer. Yeah, so I've been in the field for a while, about 9 to 10 years professional work experience, which cuts across research, academics, governments, African Union, and the United Nations also. And also in my capacity as a civil society organizations advocate also. So this is my little introductions as we dive into the purpose of the day. Thank you, Excellence. Excellence, are you there?
Okay, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes, I can hear you now. You need to just keep your microphone open. Don't mute.
Okay,
Except you
so
have background noise.
what prompted you to join the development space? Okay, so what prompted you to join the development space? How did you know that okay, this is what you wanted to do, and how did you start? We want to know. You're muted. Okay. You're muted. We can't hear you. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, so what prompted me into development space was born out of passion and the drive to see humanity thrive in our daily endeavors. I came into development space in the time of the Millennium Development Goals, where we have 8 was it 8? Yeah, 8 Millennium MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, and because I also want to be one of the young people who have to address some of these goals, which were MDGs 4, 5, and 6, which talks about ending maternal mortality and improving maternal, newborn, and child health, and also ending or reversing the trend of HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. So all this happened while I was still in school in Lautech around my 200 level days, where I was kind of stylishly partnering with Society for Family Health. I remember they came to my school at some point where they requested for those who can offer some services which involve HIV testing and counseling. So some of us volunteered and were trained by Society for Family Health and SFH, and that was how I came into limelight, helping Society for Family Health to screen thousands of students for HIV, and also counseling, advising them about their status, and doing subsequent follow-ups for young people. So I think this was how I came into the development space, or let me say limelight, because that singular activity didn't end there. It continued on and on and on, and it is end up being, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, so it ended up being Society for Family Health needing my services, and from there it moves to FHI 360. They were not called FHI 360 then. I think they were just FHI Gain. So so I moved from Society for Family Health to FHI. All this happened while I was still a student in school, and over time I get to be immersed into the programming for development space, most especially using my entry point from the public health point of view. So I came in working as a volunteer and intern on public health side, responding to MDGs 4, 5, and 6, like I said. So this was what brought me to limelight. And also, while I was contemplating coming into development space and using public health as a point of entry, the incidence of HIV and HIV tends to be more higher. Young people were getting HIV from different sources. There was so much of people were no longer abstaining from sex. They were not being faithful, and they were not like practicing condom use. So I think there was a gap that I could fill into if I come in fully. So I identified the gap that brought me into responding to a global issue, which is ending or reversing the incidence of new HIV infections, maternal mortality, and child death, and so on and so forth. So all these were around year 2003, 2004. So this was how I came into development gradually, right from while I was an undergraduate student. Did I leave anything behind?
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. So, being in the development space all this while, what are the skills that you found out that were key to help you through your journey for someone who is looking at going into the development space? What skills are key to start with?
All right. So I think coming into development space most times is not about skills. It's all about your willingness and resilience. I don't know if I can classify those two as skills, but I think they are skills on their own. It was first my willingness and then my resilience to keeping on. So in terms of skills, I really don't have so many skills. It was just my willingness to be available to offer or render a service. Because when SFH came to school to do a one-off HIV and AIDS test, they need people to stay on board to help them follow up with students who needs counseling, who needs to be reached with services or the other. So I really haven't amassed skills. I was just barely in 200 level then. So getting into development space for me wasn't about skills. It was about my willingness and my resilience and perseverance to keeping on. None the fact we need skills to really thrive in development space. But the most significant thing that still happens to today, it's not about skills. Like I said, it's about resilience and your willingness to be on board, to want to offer a service. People train on the job. People get skills on the job. So occasionally and over time, I see myself building up while developing myself on the job. I came with absolutely no skills. So that is my starting point. But in the process, I acquired skills that is now helping me to gather more wings and more feather to leverage on my resilience and willingness to render a service.
Wow, wow. Willingness. Key, that's key. So basically you can get trained on the job, but you need to be willing and resilient.
Yeah, you need to be willing and resilient, and willingness comes with its own objectives also. Resilience comes with its own objective. Willingness to travel at short notice, willingness to be trained, resilience to get on night bus to go for a meeting the next morning in another state. So it's a package that if you break it down, there are so many things that are enforced into willingness and resilience. Willingness to take up a task without remuneration or a very big remuneration in quote. Willingness to be of service immediately when you are called upon to either like serve as a rapporteur, to take a note in a meeting, willingness to so many things, and resilience to even take up challenges, even though you know that you are not really skillful in them, but you are ready to take up challenges in a process of learning how to want to triumph or excel in it. So like I said, so many things are hidden under this willingness and resilience, which were the two major factors that brought me into, in quotes, limelight till today.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. I should have asked this before I asked about the skill. When people hear the development space, they are quite confused. Like, what's the development space? Is it just NGOs or what's it like? Can you just tell us a bit about the development space, especially in Nigeria and Africa?
Okay. So development space is wild. It's not, but I think now people have limited it to NGO. Even government and non-governmental or academia or oil and gas and so on and so forth. Every one of us are in development space. We are doing this for a particular reason, to develop human capacity, to develop the world, to develop one or two things. So development space is really not limited to non-governmental organization, non-for-profit, or international NGOs and so on. Development space is also not limited to civil society organization. It's not limited to CSOs. Development space cuts across every spheres of life. It's either you are developing yourself, or you are developing mankind, or you are developing a country, or you are developing a particular space or a group of people. What we're doing presently is also a development space. And we necessarily does not need to be in an NGO to be able to develop ourselves or do something. So development space is all about, in one word, demographic dividends. Develop people, develop the nation, just develop something to help reduce the impact of a burden on humanity.
Wow.
Exactly.
Okay. So someone asked the question. I'll be taking their questions and then bringing mine in between. And she's like, with the development space, especially non-profits, somehow you have to have a connection or know someone before you can actually get a role or get funded or get on board. Is that really true? And what do you think for young people trying to get into that space?
Uh, from my own experience, when the world was still okay, we were getting funds and we were getting resources without so much ado. Uh, there's this organization called MTV Staying Alive Foundation. In the early 2002, 2003, 4, 5, 6, MTV Staying Alive Foundation allows you to write a proposal of 1 to 2 page Microsoft Word document, and you tell them what you can do with $500, what you can do with $1,000, what you can do with $2,000. I think the maximum that MTV Staying Alive Foundation was doing then was $1,500. This same MTV Staying Alive Foundation are the ones who are the brain behind the MTV Sugar series that talks about sexual and reproductive health and rights. But until the world starts changing, when greediness starts showing in people, when embezzlement started coming up, getting funds for your activity now start becoming ridiculous. I've worked with several young Nigerians who were given money to do something, and they blew it off. That's just the simple English to use. They blew off this money. I remember a young person was given about $7,000 way back in 2008 or 9. He literally used the money for his own personal wedding. About 80% to 90% of the money were used for his personal wedding. And in those days, there was really not so much on monitoring and evaluation, because we were trusted with this money. We were given this money in anticipation that we're going to really and truthfully do these activities. So there was not so much of ado with writing reports after your activities. The world doesn't need you. They just need 1 or 2 pictures. There was no social media then. There was no Twitter. There was a little bit of Facebook, but it was more of having trust in you. And that was why we were getting funding then. I remember I was a sub-grantee of MTV Staying Alive Foundation. I got grants, I got funds several times. I wasn't even leading in any capacity as such then, but because of the genuineness of what I want to do, I was trusted with money. So there was no need to write so much of big proposal or report on activities that I did. I was trusted. So connections to getting funds these days is actually real. So having connections to get funds is the new collateral now, that probably you want to lend money from the bank and the bank needs a collateral for you. They need a collateral from you. So also is connections. You need somebody's image to be on the line for you to get some kind of funds now. For instance, I will not give a young organization or a youth-based organization $10,000 without seeing what they have done before, without seeing their past reports, without seeing somebody to stand for them to say that, hey, I have worked with these people. You can trust them with your organization money. So the connections these days, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
So connection these days is the new collateral that people have to give to be trusted for resources. Connections these days is what most international organizations need, because you need somebody to actually introduce you to some of these top shops. So in terms of connection, it is true. But I can tell you that it is not in every instance that you need connections. Connections mostly happened when you need something in the tunes of some big resources. That is when they start. That is why we have referees. You are submitting proposals, they are giving you money, they are asking for your referees. Yeah. Now, if you run away with money, they can easily go and arrest your referees. So your referees now are your connections. Yeah. And most times, if your referees are not well-to-do people, not financially, but whose image will be at stake. Mm-hmm. So they need to write to your referees, contact them on phone, on emails. Your referees will sign like a bond to say that, hey, I trust this person. Your money is safe. They are not going to run away with your money, and so on and so forth. So connections is true, but not in most instances. Some organizations are still giving about $1,000, $2,000 without connections. Mm. Exactly. Wow. So some people can still give you $5,000 without connections. But once the money that an organization is putting on the line is going beyond $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, I think then connections is more powerful. And when I mean connection, it's not about the government kind of connection. It's all about who is introducing you, who is standing as your collateral if you run away. So in other words, that is just the new definition of connections in the development space.
Okay, thank you. Wow. Now, for a young person that's just starting out and maybe you don't have your dad up there, you don't have that networking, what are your suggestions on how to build a strong network that could leverage as a connection when you really need something like this? Because basically, I think it's you have to start somewhere.
How do you build what? How do you build networks for? Please say that again.
Strong. Okay, how for a young person that's just coming up and maybe you don't really know anybody yet and your parents are maybe not strong out there, but you're already doing maybe one or two things and you're doing more and you need funding to get to do so much more. How do you start building? What suggestions do you have for that young person to start building a strong network that could fit in as a strong collateral tomorrow when you have something like this?
All right. Thanks, Excellence. But let me also still use myself as an example because an average me, the 22 years old Gabriel, the 22 years old Gabriel, when he started all of this, my parents were not notable. I had zero political will. So it's not because I know people. So it is the trust that you build in yourself and that people trust you also that counts. And this is how you build network. So when I was doing all of this, I was also making sure that I was transparent in everything I do. There are activities that we see ourselves doing that is building up our networks. So when you have a deal with somebody, and you were accountable enough after this deal, it builds your network with that person. When Society for Family Health sends 100,000 naira to school to say that use it to buy test kits for HIV and AIDS testing, do this and do that. So having collected money from Society for Family Health, there was a report to say that, okay, the 100,000 naira that you guys gave me, I use it to purchase HIV testing kits that can test about 1,500 people. This is the receipt for the testing kits. These are the number of people that I tested. These were their results. All these were all what helped me to build a network with Society for Family Health. You don't need to actually, most times, the world is watching. The world is watching you based on what you are saying on social media, what you are saying somewhere else, the kind of activities that they see you doing. So this is the kind of network that I built. I built my network by not just jumping from activities to the other because I want to be relevant or because I want to make a difference. I built network because I chose a particular lane. I wanted to be relevant and I wanted to give a solution to a world problem through public health, ending HIV infections, helping maternal, newborn, and child health, and ending some other form of gender-based violence and TB, tuberculosis, and malaria. So I built my network in a particular field. There are some young people who are building their networks in any way that they think that their finances. We have a friend then who today they jump into climate change. Tomorrow they are doing family planning. Next tomorrow they are jumping into something else. Another day they are doing agriculture. Next tomorrow they are doing language. So all these, you cannot build a formidable network. You need to have a formidable network in a particular field. Whereas when the world comes to look for problem solvers, they know where to come to. They shouldn't be looking for Gabriel today in the space of climate change. If they are looking for people around something that has to do with agriculture, you should not be looking for me there. If you are looking for people doing what other issues is plaguing the world now, political inclusion or some other things, you will not find me there. It is not because I am not contributing to a national discourse, and it is not because I don't have knowledge in all of this field, but I have built a network in a particular field, which is public health, humanitarian services, responding to the issue of women and young girls in terms of any other challenges that they are facing. So over time, I have built my network and connections in this sector. Consistency, like somebody just posted it now, consistency is the key to building your network and a formidable connection. Nobody wants to give you funds when you are chasing, you turn yourself to jack of all trade. Of course, you are going to be master of none. So consistency, like Okpeyemi posted on the chat now, consistency is key to forming a good network. Exactly. So, and it's really helped me to achieve more. I wasn't just showing myself in any activities or any events that the world has shown to be like a global challenge. So that is what works for me. And that was how I built my network and connections, which has helped me where I found myself today. Wow. Over to you.
Okay, so I think from what I gathered from what you just said, that means it's very key when you're in the social space to be very visible on social media, talk about what you do, relate to people that do similar things as what you do, talk about it and show social proof that you're actually doing them, especially in a time like this when social media is big, right?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because some other people, because you can't be claiming that you are doing an intervention for people and you are not talking about it on your social media. You can't be doing so if you look at my post, for instance, 90% of what I post is what I am being what my life is doing, my professional life. You can read 10 of my posts on social media on any platform and say, definitely this guy is a public health advocate. Is a this, is a that. So, and the world is actually watching you. In the absence of the big media people reporting your activities, you are going to be the communications of yourself. You need to show the world what you have been doing. Blah, blah, blah. On Wednesday, I've reached out to 20 young people. I have built their capacity on sewing, on knitting, and so on and so forth. So the world needs to know what you are doing. And also, your donors are just patching and looking at your social media posts, because most of all these activities are also boils down to your donors asking you, what are your social media handles? Can we follow you? Can we see what you are doing? And so on and so forth. So social media is key. But in our own days, social media was not rampant, but we find a way around it.
Okay, so let me go to this question from the chat box. It's Sam, advocating for young girls in my community in my own limited way. Is there a way I can get funded by big organizations in development to help these young girls?
So it is not cast in stone. It is not an activity that is cast in stone. And development organization needs to know at what scale are you operating with. There are so many people that can fund you. It is not necessarily the United Nations alone or government. There are faith-based organizations. There are also civil society organizations who are ready to give out funds at intervals, at any time. Like also I said, you need to be making a change. You might think that you are creating an impact and you are really not creating an impact. The people of Makoko in Lagos might need food, and you are rendering a service of giving them, telling them how to make shoes. So your impact must be synonymous with the location where you are doing your event. For the person who is responding to young girls' issues, what are you doing in that community? Are you teaching young girls about sexual and reproductive health and rights? Are you making them to have access to reproductive health services or commodities? What are you doing? So you know how you can harness funds. Because if you really want to train young girls, there are several people and there are several donors. There are donors who are like service delivery. They can give you what you want. What young people are now doing is most times they are monetizing the kind of support that they need. And looking at past experiences are the best teachers that these donors are working with. Now, if you tell donors, I am reaching out to young girls in Makoko community and I'm giving them sanitary pads, I am giving them slippers and shoes. The first integrity test is to tell you that, hey, we don't have money, but we are going to give you 1 million sanitary pads. We are going to give you 1 million slippers or sandals for young people to wear to school. They want to see how you are going to take it. Are you happy taking these commodities, or your kind of resources that you need is all about money, money, and money? So donors are also scared. Is it all about money that this person needs, or there are also some kind of ways that we can help? So young people are also the enemies of themselves. They shoot themselves on the leg. People just want the kind of support that they need to be monetary. Look for the people that are going to support you. If you are doing things that have to do with empowerment and blah, blah, blah for young people, know how you can harness or you can request for funds. Do I need to reach out to a church? Do I need to reach out to a government NGO? And so on and so forth. So it is not every time that it is all about money and money and money.
Wow.
I don't know if I answered that person's question, but yeah, I am hoping if the person gets what I tried to say to this question, and if they need more insight, they can always reach me personally.
Okay. So there's this question I think is a bit of what you just answered, and she's like, how can one deal with a field that is assumed to be overworked on, something like diabetes?
Say that again. A field that is overworked on?
Yeah, that's seemingly overworked on. Should I say? She said, should I say like abandoned, like diabetes?
I'm not sure I understand that question, but in my own understanding, there is never a field that is abandoned, or there is never a field that is not worked on, or that is overworked on. Forgive me for citing this example. Not everybody, not the whole world has access to a Bible now. But there's a way you can assume to say that, okay, I am not going to preach the gospel anymore because everybody have access to Bible, and now everybody has heard about the gospel of Jesus Christ. Not everybody. So you just need to identify a particular gap in wherever you find yourself. You cannot go to Lekki Phase 4 and be talking about, I don't know, I'm just looking for an example. You can't go to Lekki Phase 4 and be doing an intervention that does not count to their upliftment or to their humanity or to life development for them. You need to identify a problem in your locality and find a way of solving it. You can't go to, for instance, there was a time in Benue State where they had the highest incidence and prevalence of HIV and AIDS. And that was where the whole world, all Nigerians moved to make sure that we support the people of Benue State to eradicate HIV and AIDS, new infections, and prevalence amongst them. So you need to identify a problem that you can solve in your community. There is no problem that is overworked on or that is less worked on. You just need to identify, are they raping girls mostly in this community? Are girls going to school in this community? Are they able to access sanitary pads? Do they have good school uniform? Do they have sandals to school? Do they have bags? Do they have reading culture? And so on and so forth. Identify a problem that you think you can solve. There is no problem that has been overworked or that is underworked. I think I answered that question.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so there's this question. So how can a young graduate or undergraduate find a niche in the development space? For instance, how can I tie my course of study to the development goals? Does it have to be what I studied or related or something like that?
If it is not too late, it is okay. You can tie your career to your specific studies in life. And now we have 17 sustainable development goals. I think some people are trying to connect to this chat, and they are trying to call me. They are writing me that they can't connect, so I don't even know. I think you should, try and open up the link so that some people can still see if they can connect without needing a password.
Let me share the link now.
Exactly. So tying your career to what the world needs is also good. For some of us, we already find ourselves in a particular course of study. And over time, we realigned ourselves to what the world needs or to the services that we can render to people. So most times, it is not all about because you are a medical doctor, you must practice as a medical doctor.
I've just shared the link. They don't need
a password. Share the link?
Yes, they don't need a password for this. Let me just copy the link instead of the whole stuff.
Yeah, just send me the link. Just send the link alone instead of your stuff, so I can just paste it on a particular group of people. Let me know when you paste it.
Done.
Did you just paste this?
Yes, I did.
Sorry, give me a sec. Let me quickly divert into WhatsApp and paste this thing there.
Okay.
All right, I'm back. So it's not, if it is not too late, identify something specific that you think that you want to do in future and start studying it from the scratch. It helps you. But
Wow.
if it is too late, if you already find yourself doing something, it is not too late. It is all about realignment, realigning yourself to what your passion is and what you really want to do. For me, I studied public health in most of my course of study in school, but today I work in communications just because I think that I have my strength lies in communication. I didn't study mass communications in school. I didn't study journalism in school, but I speak today where mass communications experts are speaking. I talk today where experts in journalism are talking. And this was because of the zeal. I realigned myself. I was already in public health in clinicals, and then I see that I would thrive well in communications. So realigning myself over time, studying and then doing short courses and then taking some other online stuff also helped me. So most times it is not all about I am a lawyer. I must be a barrister until I die. I must keep going to the court and so on and so forth. No, it's all about chasing your dreams and your aspirations and the problem that you have identified that you want to put a solution to.
Okay.
I hope I've answered this person's question.
Yeah. There's an NGO I worked with earlier this year, and I want to use them as an example to some other issues like this. They've been doing so much, especially in the area of.
Say that again,
Can you
please.
hear
I
me?
lost you. I lost you. Sorry. Say that again. People are trying to call me, so I'm ending the call.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that. So I worked with an NGO briefly earlier this year, and I want to use them as an example to what she just asked. What they're working on is facial deformities, correcting facial deformities in a whole lot of people, especially in rural areas. And that kind of organization, they've done a whole lot, like they've worked on hundreds of patients with their personal funds and funds generated from friends, but they're like, we want to get external grants. We believe we can do more, but most of the grants that come up, you're hearing HIV, tuberculosis, Lassa fever. Nobody is really, those areas that are not so talked about. Are there some organizations or something that is quite open that irrespective of what you're doing, as long as it's making an impact, they could get support or something from them?
Thank you. I think this is where philanthropies can come in. You don't need an organization that is doing HIV and AIDS to give you money for facial deformities. This is when you now start writing to people like churches and Dangotes and Femi Otedolas, the Tony Elumelus, and so on and so forth. They also have foundations, but their foundations are not bent to a particular field. They are all about development. And in as much as you are helping humanity, it is all about development. And this is where people come in. It is not mostly you get funds from international organization. For instance, Tony Elumelu still gives the UN money. Dangote gives the UN money. Femi Otadola gives Save the Children money. And they don't tie this money to a specific activity. They just trust that you are doing something to change your world, and the money will not end up being in your pocket, they can fund you. You don't have to look towards a particular source of funding.
Wow.
Look for people outside of the country who are doing the same thing that you are doing around corrections of facial deformities. Ask them how are they getting their funding. They will link you up with people, or they can be one of your donors as well. Some organizations within and outside Nigeria, they get money that they cannot spend in a year. So they are even happy to spread the money alongside with you. I think for any human problem that existed, there is no way you will not get funding from it. You just need to be able to get the right process or the right people who will give you the right information. If you need funding for correction of facial deformities, start putting up a letter, put up a proposal, submit your success stories of what you have done before, submit to people like great philanthropists. There are more than 300 philanthropists that existed in our country today that you don't even know that they are giving out money. We have the owner of Honeywell product, Oba something. I forgot his name. He's doing tremendously well. He's giving organizations money. He's giving private sector money. He's donating money to different interventions around mental health and so on and so forth. All people need to know is about that you are really doing this thing and that you have been doing it in the past. Not because you had that Tinubu has money. You are now saying that, please come and fund my facial deformity intervention project. So you need to look for related organizations that are doing what you are doing within and outside Nigeria. Ask them, how are they getting funding? Your funding can come from Israel. Your funding can come from Thailand. Your funding can come from far away Australia. Spread your tentacles when you are looking for funding. Most especially if you are doing this kind of intervention that is not rampant, that is not very popular. Spread your tentacles. There's a certain kind of intervention that my friend is particularly doing at a particular point. And I think his money was, his source of funds were coming from Israel. Because the state of Israel takes it so serious that not in their lifetime will this kind of issue be plaguing humanity anymore. So they took it upon themselves to say that for any organizations that write to us, we are going to support them. Exactly. So, and that has always been like that.
Okay. Wow, thank you.
I hope I answered this person's question though.
Yeah. There's one question that a lot of people are asking. In fact, we have here with us Queen Hadassah, who is the Miss World United Nations. She's here in this conversation. Thank you, Malcolm, for coming on board. Okay, so now a lot of people are trying to find out how can we partner with the UN, get funding, sponsorship, and all of that. How can one just go to the UN office or UN parastatal and submit a proposal or just work it? Like, how can a lot of people want to penetrate, but they don't know how to? So what do you think? What suggestions?
Thank you very much, Excellence. But then we also need to know that the United Nations is really not what most people think the United Nations are. We are not I'm not speaking for the UN, but I'm telling you from my experiences working with the United Nations.
Yeah.
The United Nations is not the money bag. United Nations are also getting funds from. So United Nations has a purse where they are picking up their money for their different interventions from. For instance, we have something in Nigeria called NHF, Nigerian Humanitarian Trust Fund, NHTF, something like that, or NHFT, Nigerian Humanitarian Trust Fund. It is a basket of funds that different parastatals have contributed money into. But because United Nations have the statistics, have the model for interventions and so many things, it is easier for us to go into that place to bring out this money to say that we are going to Maiduguri to go and work. We are going to Adamawa to go and work. We are going to Yobe to go and work. So the UN doesn't manufacture money. Private individuals, government from different countries are the source of funds for the United Nations. But still, this doesn't mean that the United Nations does not have sub-grantees in Nigeria. Most United Nations work with people that are recognized as implementing partners. And in a whole year, from January to December, 95% of United Nations agencies already have the activities that they want to do for that particular year lined up. So you cannot come with your proposals in March to United Nations and think that you will get funding in April or May. It is not possible. It is when the United Nations are reviewing how they have implemented their projects in September. Some agencies review themselves or evaluate themselves in July or August or September. Then they can think that, okay, we might not spend the money that is in our disposal. We can give it to other organizations. So at the beginning of the year, the UN is planning their activities with their implementing partners. Implementing partners are already registered in their database. They have been tested and tried. They've been interviewed. They've been screened for so many things. Implementing partners have physical offices. Implementing partners have joint accounts that does not have that is not controlled by one human being. Implementing partners have passed through several accountability tests. Implementing partners have overcome different kinds of tests from the United Nations. So they have been tested and tried and trusted. So the UN find it easily to give them money because at the beginning of the year, they have also itemized the activities that they want to do in various communities. I mean implementing partners now. So they have itemized their activities for the year, they have costed it, and they have sent it to the particular UN agencies that they are working with. We have more than 25 UN agencies, and they operate based on implementing partners. So they have itemized this thing, and the UN does not give them the money that implementing partner A take all this money from January to December. No. Implementing partners are giving their money every quarter.
Wow.
Because there's no way that you will be giving 25 million naira in January that you might not misuse it. So if you need 25 million naira for a whole year, they kind of give you the money systemically in tranches. They give you 5 million naira in January for you to spend between January to March. They give you another 10 million naira to spend between April to June. They give you another 5 million naira to spend between July to September, and vice versa. And immediately you are spending this money every quarter, you are submitting reports that for the 5 million naira that you give me for January to March, this is how I spent the money. Here is the report. Exactly. So the United Nations also give money to these people, implementing partners. There are some times that the implementing partners, for some of the things that they have planned, does not go well. They also subgrant the money to NGOs, local NGOs. So most times it's not all about running to the UN. It is all about identifying an implementing partner for a specific UN agency that can absorb you into working with them in synergy. You get what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, okay. Wow.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you. So there's this question. Can you share with us some tips on how to write a proposal requesting for funding from philanthropist organizations? Like tips on writing a winning proposal. What should be in the proposal? What should be the focus? More focused on?
So it depends. There's something that we call elevator pitch in development space. Donors or people that want to fund you, they don't have all the time. You don't need to write too many stories. And this is what I think has helped me. And the world is also changing. The world is going digital. You don't need a 20-page story to convince Dangote that you need money. You don't need a 20-page to convince Otedola that you need money. These people need a short human interest story. You meet Dangote in an elevator or Tony Elumelu or Jimovia, and you say, sir, this is a 20-page document of an intervention that I'm planning. They will not read it. Tell them, sir, do you know that before the end of today, 50 women will die in Katsina State, another 100 will die in Kano State, another 20 will die in Lagos State, another 20 will die in Imo State because of malnutrition, and they are pregnant, and blah, 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 blah. You need to have your statistics well framed, well designed. The only thing that should take time in your, or make your proposal lengthy, is your success stories from people, which should also not come as narrative. Your success story should come as a short video, as an infographics, as something, as a statistics. In January 2020, 50 people died before, but when we started this intervention in February, death prevalence has reduced to 40 to 20, and now in July we only are experiencing 5 deaths amongst the women, and this is due to the donations that we have received. Sir, we want you to help us to donate more so that we can stop women from dying totally. Proposals are so simple. It is when you are looking for big millions. It is until you are looking for big millions that you need a very big proposal, that are bulky, that are very big, that they ask you to bring so many kind of documents. But averagely, every donor knows what you want to do. Even in the United Nations, we don't need a bulky proposal. And I'm so sure that there are several templates of proposals on the internet. The internet can always help and guide. It is not until you write so many stories on a proposal that it scales through. It is all about identifying who is going to read your proposal. Who are you writing this proposal to? And how are they going to take it? Exactly. Identify the people you are writing your proposal to. Go and make a research about them on their internet, on their website, on the internet, and be skillful about your proposal. Less is more. We discussed this morning or yesterday. Less is more. You need to know how to. You need to know how to capture the audience without lengthy stories. Not everybody have 2 hours to read your proposals. Not everybody has 30 minutes. Dangote does not even have 10 minutes. Femi Otedola does not have 10 minutes. Tony Elumelu only has 3 minutes or 2 minutes to listen to you. I have sat in front of these people and I know their attention span. They know that you are begging for money. In quotes, you are begging. So you need to go straight to the point. You don't need to beat around the bush. Exactly. I think this has worked for me. When I was applying for MTV Staying Alive Foundation in the early 2000s, there was a time I submitted a one-page Microsoft Word document proposal, and I got $1,500, and I got the money more than 8 times.
Wow.
Exactly. It is going straight to the point. What is your introduction? What is your methodology? What results are you going to get from it? And what is your conclusion? What impact will it create? Less is more. Two-page proposal is fine. Introduction of the organization and what you guys are doing. The problem that you want to address. The methodology of the problem that how you will address it. Are you going to go to a community? Are you going to dance? Are you going to do HIV testing? Are you going to counsel them? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? What is the expected results that you hope to get? And in turn, how will these results has helped humanity? Nobody needs a lengthy story for proposals anymore. Exactly.
Okay. Finally, sorry, we know you're very busy. We'll really appreciate this. So now with COVID-19, what is the atmosphere like, especially in the development space? What is it like for those trying to come in, those that already have NGOs? Because now it seems all the funding is going to COVID-19, all the support. What do you think about it?
All right, so thank you very much. I also think that you should look through the chat. Some people are dropping some questions there, which I'm seeing. Okay, so this is the time for us to have our thinking caps on and be more creative and innovative. You cannot control how a donor wants to spend their money. And if they say they are giving out their money for COVID-related interventions, you have to shape yourself to say that, okay, if people that need special deformities are not helped, they might go and look for help where they will get COVID-19 and they might be infected and they will die. So you need to know how to write your stories, to link one problem to another problem. That people that are facially deformed, if we don't help them, they might go outside and be begging for money. They might be on the road begging for money. In that process, they will catch COVID-19 and they will die. So in the process of controlling, mitigating COVID-19 deaths, we need to help people with facial deformities. Forgive me for using these facial deformities, but then this is like an example. So you need to be able to coin your interventions. For young people now, it is now evidence that COVID-19 is almost like a sexually transmitted stuff also. So it is to tell them that we need to do this for young people. Otherwise, it will increase their promiscuity and they will have COVID-19. Yeah, so exactly. Forgive me for using So some of these things are interwoven. They are tied to one another. You need to identify the bigger picture and the broad picture to say that if we don't do this, this will happen. If we don't stop young girls from standing on the road in Wuse 2, they will be the one to bring in COVID-19 into your house and give you that young man to give you HIV and AIDS. Forgive me for using this example again. So we need to get young girls out of the streets by empowering them, by sending them to school, and so on and so forth. So there is always a big picture. If donor says that our money must be tied to a COVID-19 intervention, then reshape your agenda, reshape your interventions to make sure that COVID is mentioned in it, to make it look like COVID has come to stay. It is impacting on the job that you are doing, and if care is not taken, humanity will be wiped out. So re-strategize, be innovative, and wear more of your thinking cap. And just as we know, the world is changing. So that is it. We cannot decide what the donor wants to use their money to do. But I am so sure it is not all donors that are COVID-19 centric to say that your interventions must be tied to COVID-19. Some people are still flexible and they are still giving out funds, regardless of COVID-19 or not. Over to you.
Okay, so there's a question here. She's like, how do you identify implementing partners in your field of interest?
So it is easy. Implementing partners, they are everywhere on the internet. If you carry your iPhone, if you carry your laptop, you Google it. Implementing partners for UNFPA in Nigeria, you will find it. Implementing partners for UNDP in Nigeria, you will find it on the internet. You will see where they are. Implementing partners are also called civil society organizations. It's just that they have passed through the test of fraud, they've passed through the test of accountability, they've passed through several tests, they have a physical office, and so on and so forth. Implementing partners are so much, and you can always find them everywhere. Like I also said, it is not cast in stone. You can always write to the UN agencies. They can also fund you, but like I said, a larger percentage of their funds goes to their implementing partners, those who they already trust, and so on and so forth. So that's it. Implementing partners, you can write to the UN agencies and say, I want to know your implementing partners in Lagos. I want to know what they are doing. They will be glad to link you up with their implementing partners. It is not something that they are hiding. Exactly.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. So if you guys have more questions, you could ask. But for you, Mr. Gabriel, what we have quite a number of young people here. What are the tips, suggestions? Generally, you've done quite well with your journey so far. So what word do you have for us, the young people? What do you think you should focus on? When we were talking last week, we were saying things like how a lot of young people are quite focused on making the money and all of that, and losing sight of long term, the impact and things like that. So can you just share with us today?
Thank you very much, Excellence. But then I also think that young people need to identify a problem or a challenge that they think that they can solve. And young people also should not make it all about money. Innocently and genuinely seek towards ending the problem, even if it pays your bills or not. But young people want to turn it to a money-making venture. They want to turn it to an avenue to make salaries. And I am not disputing. Young people deserve to earn a living from whatever that they are doing. But most times it doesn't translate immediately into financial stability. The world needs to see that you are serious, that the world needs to see that you are resilient, the world needs to see your willingness, that truly whatever you are doing is born out of passion and is born out of the love for humanity. But also, don't use your life savings and be doing humanitarian work, except you have a backup where you are getting your money from. So young people need to actually be very determined. I was determined and it brought me this far. I was resilient and it brought me this far. I had willingness to so many things. I was ready to do anything around infectious disease and public health, and it brought me this far. So young people need to identify what the kind of solutions that they can bring to the table, and find a sphere of influence for themselves. You need to identify those who you think will be able to help you. And by so doing, I think that you will be able to go far in life. And like I also said, it doesn't translate to financial remunerations most times. It is all about your willingness to address a global challenge and make sure that things work. Exactly.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope I've been able to answer some few questions.
Yeah, I think all the questions that have been asked from the chat and from the mail, you've really answered them and done justice to them. And a lot of people are saying thank you privately and publicly. Thanks for sharing this knowledge. You just woke me up and all of that. So thank you very much, sir, for your time. Some people are asking, can we connect with you directly?
They can connect with me directly on social media. I can type my my social media handle to them, and you can also share my email address if you deemed it fit
Okay.
with people here. I'm
Okay.
typing my Twitter handle for people right on the chat now, so they can connect with me on Twitter.
Okay.
I want to send it to everybody.
Okay. Let me see. Everyone. Okay. Done.
Exactly, and then you can also help me post my Facebook account to the group.
Okay.
My full name. They can connect with me with my full name on Facebook, and also I'll be willing to offer help as much as I can. So I'm reachable on social media and on my email address also.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think I've sent your Facebook handle.
You made a typographical error in my surname.
Okay. Sorry. Delete this.
It is Gabriel Adeyemo.
Okay. So, all right. So, I can't
Yeah,
delete
that's
it. Okay. So that's it. Okay. So, thank you very much. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thanks to everyone who came on board. I hope you all had value for your time and you had your questions answered. So there's going to be a replay and it'll be on our YouTube channel. So you could see that you get a notification once it's up. So you could go there and see, learn more, jot more. And those that about 58 people registered. But I think a lot of people were coming on and off and maybe they had issues so they could have access to this. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellence. It's a pleasure to also be able to talk about this, and it's all about also having time on my side. I always love to do this, but like you know, time has always been my greatest enemy. But
Yeah.
once we have an agreed time that works for everybody, we can always do this anytime.
Wow, thank you. So we'll do this again. Wow, thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate.
All right. I'm grateful too for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
All right. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Yeah.